Today we're going to be cabling this river birch. The homeowner doesn't want to lose this tree, and it had a pretty nasty breakout. It's had a couple of them now. So oftentimes, you have three options. You can either remove the problem tree, you can just kind of wait and see what happens. You can do pretty extreme pruning on it and get rid of kind of that heavy wood that's, gonna break out. Or you can cable it, and there's a right way and a wrong way to do it. Today we're going to show you the right way to cable a tree. For starters, we're going to clean up some of these broken pieces here that were wind damaged. So we're going to go up our arborist ladder. You never want to cut from a ladder, and this is a very stable ladder. It's kind of made for tree work, specifically in like orchards for pruning fruit trees and picking fruit and stuff. But we like to use it on these smaller jobs to just kind of help aid us in our tree work. So we're going to go up, get that cleaned up, and then find a good spot to insert our cable. Yeah, and we'll show you how we do it in the process. Common misconception, and we've had to remove a lot of failed trees due to bad cabling and bad bracing. And a lot of the times people think that, so this is the part that we're worried about breaking out. A lot of people think if you cable this right here and hold these together, it's going to be strong, and it does help. But you look at all this weight, and just imagine if this was a big tree, think about all that weight that's out above this point. Really what you're doing is you're just causing rot down in this area that's eventually going to fail. So you always want to cable a tree about 2/3 above the weak union. The common misconception is that you want to cable 2/3 the height of the tree, but it's actually 2/3 from the weak union. And we want to prevent this from breaking out or failing. So we're essentially going to go about 2/3 up from this weak spot in the tree. If we go 2/3 up, we're going to be in really small wood since this is a smaller tree. So we're going to go a little bit below that, but it's going to be more than sufficient. Another type of cabling you can use is called a Cobra system, and it's more of a dynamic cabling system. Dynamic cabling system is for trees that have a weak union that hasn't yet failed. This would be a good candidate for that, but with all of this included bark and the failure points it's already had, we're going to go ahead with more of a traditional cabling system. This part still has bark attached on the backside, and I want to do as little damage as possible, so we'll probably just leave that, and as that part dies, the homeowner can take that off. But yeah, we're at the branch collar here. That's about as good as it's going to get. Now we're at about 2/3 above our union, so we're going to cable from about this point over to here. And the key with this, when you're drilling your hole, you want to kind of look down your sights and make sure that these two holes line up, because you don't want your cable to be running like this and your eyelet is like that, if that makes sense, because then you're putting unnecessary force on the tree. You want it to be as natural as possible. So about right there to there. So we'll go ahead and drill our hole. Alright, so we can see straight through our hole. We are in the center of this tree, in the strongest wood, and that hole is in line with where we're going to be putting our other eyelet over here. So now it's time to install our eyelets, and we're using galvanized eyelets so they don't rust, and this is what's going to go into the tree And essentially, when this is in there and cabled, the tree is going to grow around this, and essentially it's going to become a part of the tree. So let's go ahead and get our washers on this and install it up in our holes that we drilled. So now we're going to install our washer and then our nut, and we're actually going to use our nut to tighten the cable when it's time. So we're actually going to leave that loose like that. And then when we install our cable from one side to the other, as we tighten this, it'll bring everything in. All right, now we're installing our cable thimbles onto our eyelets. Crimp this down just a bit. There. Then we have one on the other eye. Now it's time to run our cable. So we're going to be running a 3/8 cable for this tree. It's got an 840 pound strength, which is more than enough for this small tree. Larger tree, obviously use the applicable larger cable, but we're going to go with this, run it through our thimbles, re-splice it together, and then we'll use a stopper. Splice right back together the way that it came apart. Sometimes it can be a bit tricky. All right, so we have most of our tension out of that. We have one bolt nice and tight. Now we're just splicing this cable on the other side of the tree. And we'll splice her down a good ways so that we have that structural integrity. We were just talking about this with the homeowner actually. These bolts, if they're done correctly, they do not harm the tree. You're really only looking at a tree this size at less than an inch here and less than an inch here of actual wound to the sapwood. The rest of it's all heartwood, which is just there for structural integrity anyway. So it's a pretty small wound. You know, the tree can easily heal that, and it will grow to the point where it engulfs this, and it's just a structural part of the tree. And we can actually see this cable getting ever so slightly tighter. And it's actually moving the tree a little bit, but it's still going to have those dynamics to it to where it's going to remain strong and be able to withstand wind loads. That's perfect. All right, so we got that snug. Our cable is tight, but not overly tight. It's got some tension to it more than anything. So, and like we had said, this cable has an 840 pound test. So it's plenty strong for a small tree like this. And the last step is to cut off our eyelet bolts. So it looks nice and clean. And we have a nice, strong tree. So we have our cable installed. Our eyelet bolts are cut flush. I think we'll just kind of mar the ends so they can't back out for any reason. And yeah, we're pretty much done here. If you have any questions, give us a call. We'd be happy to do a consultation, or yeah, just see if cabling might be a better option for your trees than actual removal or heavy pruning. So thanks for watching.